The first time I ever tried to explain what I wanted was on a Wednesday morning, standing in front of 30 people in a sleek conference room, palms sweating against the battered folder that cradled the pages of my film proposal. I had walked into the investor's pitch feeling lightheaded from rehearsing lines, a tightness in my chest every time I imagined the answer, yes or no, trust or skepticism. The projector bled honey light onto the white wall, hum of the AC mixing with footsteps. I paced the rim of the table, swallowing back fear with a smile that trembled at the edges. I introduced myself, me Lamo Elena Duarte. I'm an independent filmmaker from Iztapalapa. My film's called Dyer's de Lumber. My voice sounded thinner than I had hoped. The panel bankers with pressed suits, a man with glossy shoes and a designer pen, a few older women, one twirling a pink highlighter, listened with pinched mouths. I clicked through my slides. Shots of sunlit streets and children darting between broken garden fences painted the wall. I described the story, a girl searching for her vanished brother through the labyrinth of Mexico City, hope and fury braided together in every step. A friend had lent me his camera for the teaser footage. My mother played the neighbor, her nervous laughter captured forever. When I finished, silence swelled. No one clapped. A man in the back cleared his throat and muttered, "My amateur." Another voice said, "Too political, no commercial value." The older woman with the pink highlighter smiled tightly, eyes skating over me to the next applicant waiting by the door. My fingers clenched around my folder, my story, everything that made me, that shamed me, that I believed, hung in the air like dust. "Thank you, Miss Duarte," the lead investor said, checking his watch. The doors opened. I left, heart pounding in my ears, every step echoing the word ridiculous. I stood outside, pressed my back to the wall of the building, eyes stinging. People in suits and red lipstick hurried by. Above, the sky was a summer blue so bright it bored through me. I walked 15 blocks home, past fruit vendors and taco stands, heavy traffic and the sour tang of exhaust. My sneakers left prints in the puddles from the morning's rain. Home was a stack of weary concrete apartments. Climbing the stairs, I wiped my eyes and tried not to think about what I would tell the family now. My mother stirred beans in the kitchen. The TV buzzed in the living room, telenovela laughter chasing through the apartment. My aunt was there too. She snorted when she saw the folder tucked under my arm. "Another failure?" she asked, arching an eyebrow. "You should have studied accounting. That at least gets you interviews." I set the folder on the table and shrugged. "Not this time." She picked up a tomato, slicing it with emphasis. "Who wants to watch a movie about poor kids? There are enough of those stories. And nobody gets rich from movies, unless you're from Televisa, which you're not." My mother said gently, "Elena works hard, she'll find her way." But my brother Diego, 13 and brittle with sarcasm, piped up from the sofa, "She'll find herself broke. Just wait." His words landed with the sting of truth. Deep down, I wasn't sure if I disagreed. That night, I lay in bed and rehearsed the pitch again, mouth moving silently in the dark. On the table in the hall, my battered folder waited, a lopsided pile of hope and heartbreak. I wish I could say I bounced back right away. I didn't. For months, I drifted between small jobs, editing wedding videos, captioning TV shows I barely watched. At home, my aunt rolled her eyes each time she caught me scribbling in my notebook. "Buenas películas don't come from here," she would sneer, waving at the sagging plaster and the damp patch blooming above our bathroom door. "Be realistic." The words ate at me. In church on Sundays, after my mother squeezed my hand and we filed past old friends, I caught their glances, curious, half-pitying. "Elena still with the camera?" Senora Estella would ask, pursing her lips. "Such a shame, she was bright in school," replied Senora Vargas with a sideways smile, but we all know how those dreams end. During family parties, cousins asked about my Hollywood life with open laughter. "Did you meet Salma Hayek yet?" someone would shout. Another mimed rolling a camera, their tongue stuck out. I learned how to answer with a smile shrinking inside each time. I kept my scripts in a plastic bag under my bed, pages smudged and torn from rereading. But I didn't stop. Somehow, after the bitterness ebbed, after each rejection closed in on me like a bruise deepening, I found something harder, sharper inside, a kind of steel. I became obsessed with the idea of making Dyer's de Lumber myself, with whatever resources I could gather. If the doors wouldn't open, I would find a window. I started showing up at indie film meetups around Roma and Condessa, where filmmakers traded advice over cafeteria coffee, our dreams too big for the cramped rooms we shared. I met Lewis, a sound guy who lived off OXO sandwiches and had access to microphones. Issa, who stitched together costumes from thrift shops. Together, we found actors willing to work for tacos and credit. We filmed for months, sometimes all night, lost in the city's neon haze. I stole shots as the dawn cracked over Iztapalapa rooftops, my friend Marisol's little brother running past dogs and hungover street musicians. We borrowed my uncle's battered pickup as a dolly, rolled it slowly down paved streets to get a tracking shot. The neighbors laughed when they saw the camera, but I kept going, heart thrumming. Every time someone asked, "What's this for?" I answered, "It's my future." Money sputtered and ran dry. My mother pressed a few bills into my hand, her weekend profits from selling tamales, whispering, "Ayudame pero cree NT, help me but believe in yourself." Isaac, the cinematographer, lent us his battered lens, saying, "I trust you, Elena." There were days we filmed with trembling hands, shivering in the evening drizzle, living off instant ramen. I edited at night, my face alive in the bluish glow of the screen, finding meaning between chopped dialogue and blurred frames. Each time I pieced together a scene, it felt like breathing underwater and reaching air. This was why I dreamed. The first time we screened the film was at a tiny community center in San Angel. 20 people sat in plastic chairs. The projector stuttered and the sound cut out once. But when it ended, 3 people stood up and clapped, tears shining on my mother's cheeks. "It feels like us," a boy whispered. "It feels like my family." That was enough to start. We sent the film to festivals, first to local ones, then abroad. Rejections came swiftly at first, each one an old familiar ache. But one night, an email from an indie festival in Toronto winked in my inbox. "Congratulations," it began. I stared at it until the words blurred, unable to move. I ran to the window, the city stretching orange and wild below me. I pressed my hand against the glass and whispered, "Gracias." After that, a trickle of acceptances, Austin, Madrid, even an invitation to a showcase in Mexico City itself, not one of the big theaters, but a small, serious festival in Coyoacán. With each screening, whispers around home became edged with uncertainty. My aunt, who had scoffed loudest, watched me from beneath her lashes. "So, you're really going?" "I am," I answered, voice steely. The day of the Mexico City screening, I wore my best jeans and a crisp white shirt. My mother clutched my arm, her dress ironed at the neckline. When my aunt arrived, heavy gold earrings swinging, I almost laughed at her nervousness. We walked into the small old theater. The walls were lined with movie posters, decades of stories watching us arrive. In the seats, a few local journalists tapped on tablets. My name glowed on the program, Dyers de Lumber Dyer. Elena Duarte. I took a breath and glanced back at my family. My brother Diego, grown taller now, slouched in hoodie and headphones. My aunt checked her phone. I tried not to hope too hard. The lights dimmed. The opening frames burst onto the screen, sunlight cracking through alleyways, a little girl holding a battered toy. My mother squeezed my hand. My heart beat so loud I barely heard the dialogue. It played. The sound, the color, real and alive. Near the end, as the girl finally found her brother, the audience grew silent, breathless. When the credits rolled, there was a moment before applause. Then it came, slow at first, then strong. I heard someone in the front row sniffle. My mother's tears fell freely. I looked at my aunt, wiping at her eyes, mouth trembling. After, in the theater lobby, strangers came forward. One called it visceral, another unapologetically honest. A festival programmer shook my hand. A woman offered to connect me with a producer for my next project, but the moment that burned forever into my heart was smaller. As the hall emptied, my aunt approached. Behind her, a few old friends from church. Estella Vargas stood uncertain, having watched every credit. My family wore fresh expressions, suspended between pride and awe. My aunt's voice trembled barely above a whisper. "Elena, it was beautiful. I'm sorry I doubted you." She pulled me into an uneven hug. My mother joined, wrapping her arms around us both, and Diego, awkward, not a child anymore, patted my back with shy affection. Others drew near, people who watched me grow, who mocked and doubted and now blinked in disbelief. "I didn't know you had this inside you," Estella whispered, voice breaking. I held my head high, a warmth blooming in my chest. The years of silence, laughter behind my back, all of it washed away, replaced by something unbreakable. In the weeks after, invitations trickled in, new screenings, offers. The film found its way online, shared by strangers who saw themselves in my story. Sometimes the money was good, often it was barely enough. But what mattered was that I kept creating, kept telling the stories that lived in me. Back at home in Iztapalapa, life continued. My mother still sold tamales on weekends, her smile proud and secretive. Diego saved to buy a camera, dreaming of short films. My aunt planted roses in the thin band of earth behind our building. Sometimes in the evenings I would walk to the rooftop, eyeing the horizon, hearing the city breathe below me, neon, noise, promise. The concrete bore the warmth of the day. I would remember the sting of shame, the laughter, the hollow ache after rejection. I would trace my scars and find beneath them the steel. Each time I returned to where I began, a daughter, a dreamer, a filmmaker, I carried with me the proof that hope, once dismissed and jeered at, can burn bright enough to light the way home.